Hey, paisans, the time has come. On the air since 2009, the independently produced, non-FCC compliant champ of video game talk podcasting. Here comes Tiger Claw Radio. Here's your host, Critical Failure.
Here we go. What's going on, everybody? This is your host, Critical Failure. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. My goodness, it's going to be a good week this week. Yes, it is. Can't wait. Suikoden. Could it be? Is it time for Suikoden to make its return? Talked about reviewing it years ago. It just might be. All that and more this week. Kicking us off, we got the Real Fama Tracker Hours. Journey Through the Generations. This is a compilation I picked up off of Bandcamp. Just trying to find some other chiptunes to listen to. This wasn't a particularly new release, but it is free, and we're going to take a listen. This is the Real Fama Tracker Hours on Tiger Claw Radio. Listen, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. It's 10:12 at night right now. I usually sit down and record this much earlier. I don't know how this happened, but I'm exhausted. There's a lot of cool stuff to go over though. This week I had 2 trips to the van, and one of the 2 unlocked a door to an RPG that I haven't gone through in many years. So let's kick things off with our first and much shorter of the 2 visits. Stick with us. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Morning, everybody. Tuesday morning. It's time for the Vancast. 6:24 in the morning, so technically getting out a little bit late. I like 6:20. That's when I like to get out. Give me a second here. I'm pulling out of my spot. What time is it now? 45, let's see, yeah, 6:24. 45 degrees outside. A little bit of a rainy morning. Oh, boy. All right. So this is the first Vancast of the week. So what did I do this past weekend? This past weekend was very busy for me. It was very busy. Didn't have much game time at all. And the game time I did have, I spent about an hour yesterday, and I just played Resident Evil 5. It's one of those things where it's like, I was so dead tired. I was doing the family thing, trying to help my kids, trying to help my wife. And then when I finally had an hour, I wanted to just relax
So I played a game that I wanted to reach for something that wasn't going to be difficult. A game I've beaten many times. Played Resident Evil 5. Working my way through it on Veteran so that I can unlock professional difficulty. Still a good time. I'm trying to unlock professional difficulty, and I'm also trying to obtain all the guns. Resident Evil 5 has a shop, an in-game shop. You spend your money on weapons and upgrades and things like that. Typically, the way I play through that game, I don't worry too much about buying better weapons. I find it much more valuable to worry about upgrading the weapons that you have, even if they're the starting weapons. I just get them fully upgraded. So I end up finishing the game with the starting shotgun and stuff. But now that I'm trying to 100% that game, and I'm going through it multiple times, there's a lot of high-end weapons that I didn't have access to. So I bought the Magnum, the largest possible Magnum, which is the revolver. I don't know the names of the weapons, and it doesn't really matter, but I guess the starting Magnum is a revolver as well, but here's a shiny one. That's 30,000 gold points and or money units or whatever. Buying this thing and then getting it maxed out equated to a couple hours of gameplay. So that was fun. Even though I beat the game over and over again and I got infinite ammo and a lot of other guns, it was neat to unlock something else. Still having fun with Resident Evil 5. 79 hours in now. Fast approaching the 100-hour threshold. Entering that game into the 100-hour club, which out of 2,000 games, I got maybe 15 that are in the 100-hour club, which to me feels like a lot. Entering the ranks of Quake and CSGO and Sims 3. What else is in the 100-hour club? Europa Universalis 3 is in that group. Trackmania 2 and the original Trackmania. Terraria is in the 100-hour club. Gary's Mod. All top-notch games, 100 plus hours of gameplay. It's weird to think now I can put 100 hours into a game, and when I cross that 100-hour mark, it doesn't even put it in the top 10 of most played games. I think what I'd like to play right now, I'm in the mood for Civ 2. You might remember a couple months back, there was back and forth between me and Hemrock. He built a mod for Civ 2, a really nice one. Like a steampunk Civil War kind of thing. And I played it a bit. I played it a couple times. But I feel like there was a lot more left to do. But it's tough to find time to play that game. Civilization, any iteration of it, is pretty far from a just pop in and play and then pop out kind of game. You know what I'm talking about? When people say, oh, you could just play for a little bit and then move on with your day. Civilization ain't one of those games. It just isn't. You put in Civilization, you better be committed to at least an hour. And if you're only going to put in an hour, it better be that's the game you're playing every time you can. Whenever I play Civilization, I have a real hard time going back to a save file if it's been any longer than a day or two. I can't remember what was happening. I'm not invested in this game anymore. Oh well, gotta start over. I think with that, boys and girls, we're gonna call that it for this morning. to be honest, I'm a little bit nervous about driving out here in the rain. The road I'm on now is a little bit twisty. It's a little bit of a back road, but I've also got like a line of people behind me and in front of me, which is weird for 6:34 in the morning. But it is what it is. I want to make sure I get to work safely, and I'll catch up with you guys back in the studio. I'll see you there.
Back again in the studio, feeling good. The 100-hour club. My goodness, not many games can say that. At least amongst my collection. At least on Steam, anyway. There's certain games that I either played prior to getting into Steam or just played outside of Steam that would have long surpassed that, like Minecraft. My goodness. Thank the heavens that I'll never know how much I played Minecraft. I'll never play it as much as I did back in 2012 when I first came across it. But believe you me, that is a game that's in the 100-hour club. The most played game I have on Steam is Gary's Mod with 500 plus hours. I'm going to get you a figure here in a second. But 500 plus, that's the most played game. Nothing else in my Steam collection even comes close. But Minecraft, if if I had the figures on that, it'd blow 500 hours out of the water. All right, boys and girls, this is the Real Famitracker Hours compilation again. This is Mauville, and the artist says anonymous. So I don't know. Whatever it is, go get yourself a copy of the Real Famitracker Hours compilation album. There's some quality stuff on here. You're listening to Tiger Club Radio. Back again in the studio. I did some jamming early this evening with a pocket operator, which I did in Reaper. I've got the Reaper DAW all set up, giving that a test to see how it works. I haven't really worked with any of the quality DAWs before, and that's the cheapest one at $60. So I'm trying the trial version out. It would be nice to use some of my hardware and mix it with some of my software solutions. Like I want to be able to, play my guitar over top of some of the VSTs that I found out on the internet. I think that would be pretty awesome. I want to do that without having to use Audacity as an extra layer if I can afford it. But we'll see. Be that as it may, I'm starting to slide off track here. There's an old game that is going to come up in this next Vancast. Let's go there now.
Morning, everybody. It's Thursday morning, 6:26 in the morning. I'm well on my way down the road to work. 35 degrees outside, nice, cool, and not too bad. Skies are finally clear. It's not raining. That's pretty cool. All right, so over the last couple days, actually, this was yesterday evening, I opened up a text file on my computer, and I've been writing lately for Emerald Rangers. I just finished a review of Operation Abyss, and I was kind of scouting around, seeing what I could write the next one on. Because I do one a month for Emerald Rangers, and I took several months off when my youngest son was born. But I'm back at it now. And so I had this text file open, and I said, okay. I started writing down all the bullet points that I could remember about Suikoden. Because you might remember 10 years ago when I started my YouTube channel, or 11 years ago now, however long it's been. It was originally these video game review essay type videos. That was how I started. Because that was what was popular on YouTube at the time. Let's Plays, I mean, they were around, but they weren't really a prevalent thing, I don't think. That didn't come till later. And it was acceptable in those days to do one video a week. If you had one new video every week, then your channel was popping. So there was time to write and edit all yourself, you know. So I gathered a bunch of footage for a video about Suikoden. This is years and years and years ago. And I wrote a script. I even recorded the audio at one point, but it never got edited together. And a lot of those parts are missing now. I still have the footage of the game, but I don't have like the rest of the parts. And anyway, if I'm going to put that video out now, I would want to have my updated 2020 take on the game. So I started writing down all the bullet points I could remember. Now at this point, it's been so long, I'm going to have to revisit the game in order to put out anything accurate. But a lot came out. Suikoden was I never played it through, but my early introduction to the PlayStation is tied in with Suikoden. I first encountered the PlayStation going to friends' houses, and my buddy Engie, it wasn't the first place I saw it, but he was the place that I saw it the most. And I remember Suikoden, I remember playing that game, or being shown it for the first time, and then like, towards the beginning, there's a place where where there's like a 3-card Monty type game with cups, where the cups spin around and you got to track the one that has the ball underneath. And I had this bright idea. Okay, well, we'll just save beforehand, and we'll save scum it. We'll bet high, and then we'll reset the machine if I miss, and then we'll reload our guy. There you go. Bada boom, bada bing. Game equals hacked. So that was the first time I really encountered the long restart time a PlayStation deals with. Because I think up until that point, I would show up at my buddy's house and the game would be running. And I'd be, hey, what are we up to? Yeah, we're playing some Resident Evil, playing some Suikoden, playing some Crash Bandicoot, what have you. So that was I reset the machine and wait for a solid 40 seconds before the game even boots up. Never mind how long it takes to actually reload your file and get back into the game. It's like, oh, this is an RPG. I'm better off just going out and doing battles. It's a good game though, man. I was surprised when I looked up the dates, because I think when you talk about an old game like this, it's important to put it in context. So I was looking up the dates of when it was released and when it was developed and all that stuff. And it was pretty shocking. I knew it was like an early PlayStation game, but here's the deal. So it came out in 1996 in America, which 96 I remember as being a big year because it was the year that Nintendo 64 came out. And then there were a number of games that came out that year that became like big, long-running franchises. Like I think that was when the first Tomb Raider, Resident Evil, and Quake all came out that year. Pretty sure. So 96 was the year Suikoden came out, but it came out an entire year after it came out in Japan. So this was developed in 1995, and it was released. Had its initial release in December of 95. So the reason why that shocked me is because 95 is also the year that Chrono Trigger came out on the Super Nintendo. So this is an RPG for the PlayStation that was released while Super Nintendo RPGs were still being released. You know, for the most part, unless Chrono Trigger happened to be the last one or something. But it was definitely it was definitely like one of the last great 2D RPGs before everything got 3D. Because you know how the PlayStation was like, everything was all 3D with the PlayStation. They're really pushing this 3D rendering technology. You know, look at the Final Fantasy games that came out on the PlayStation. They're all polygonal 3D. So I think Suikoden is one of the last great 2D games, 2D RPGs. I know it wasn't the last one, because of course there was Suikoden 2. I usually think of Wild Arms as being the last great 2D RPG. But Wild Arms, as it turns out, looking up the dates, was released the same year as Suikoden. It just so happens that it had a global release initially, so it was developed in 96 as well, as opposed to Suikoden, which came out the same year but was developed a year prior. I don't know, it was weird. Looking up the timeline of those days, I think for me is always fun, because those were big years for me. I mean, I was born in 84, so that would have made me 12 years old in 1996. Oh, golly, really? 12 years old? So I was in that really mushy age, you know? I think right around 12 years old, a lot of the stuff I was seeing was what ended up being set in stone, you know? I think back to what I was hearing on the radio. I was listening to a lot of Loveline at night. I would get out my Aoya, I don't even know how to pronounce the company name, but it was like a Sony knockoff Walkman, and I would listen to 99.1 HFS, which was a local rock station, which ran for many years and eventually shut their doors in, like, I don't know, 2001 or something, maybe 2002. So that's a radio station that's been going almost 20 years. I used to listen to them, and at night they would syndicate Loveline from the West Coast. We'd get it on the East Coast like half a day later or something. I used to listen to that quite a lot. I'd listen to that and play games at my buddy's house. Now, at my house at that time, what was I playing? My dad was still around. He passed in 97. So those were like his last years. So he would be on the computer in like the main room. So the main family computer was more or less locked down all the time because he was on it quite a lot. And then my brothers were on like the TV. So there were rare instances where I'd be able to play like Nintendo, old school NES. but I spent most of my time playing MS-DOS games. 96 was also that era where it was like, it was not cool to collect for the NES. NES games didn't matter what it was. It was $5 at the pawn shop. Which, by the way, I went back to my old hometown like a month or two ago, and that pawn shop where any Nintendo game was $5 no matter what it was, finally closed its doors like a year ago, or maybe 2 years ago. Finally closed its doors. Something about that, man, just broke my heart. I don't know. It wasn't a great pawn shop. I mean, it's actually pretty scuzzy, but I went in once at probably 25. I'm 35 now. I went at 25, and the guy behind the counter was getting gray, and he was like, "Hey, you used to come in here as a kid. How you doing?" It was cool. It was a good feeling. I used to go in there and buy. I would buy NES games when I could. I bought PlayStation games when PlayStation was hot. PlayStation 1. PS2 hadn't even come out yet. Games would get sold for cheap and show up there for like $8. I would buy, what else would I buy there? I would buy CDs, because this is 1996. If you had a CD, man, you had the best way to obtain that album. I remember buying Metallica's Load there. And this is a true story. This is I'm pretty sure this was. I'd have to look up my timeline because I'm not a huge Metallica fan, but I'm pretty sure that was the album at the time, and like their latest one. And I remember talking to the guy behind the counter, and I was like, "Hey, how much for this?" And he was like, $8, and I put it back. I was like, "All right, thanks." And he was like, "Yeah, no, how much you got?" And I was like, "I got 6." He was like, "Yeah, all right, take it." So I haggled for Metallica's Load, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I've seen their videos on MTV." All right, let's bring that home. And I brought it home, and I hated it. Woo, man, I hated that album. Metallica's Load was an example of and if you love that album, don't be mad at me, but in my mind, that was an album that was like, the song that was on the radio was pretty good, and I think there was like one other good song, and all the rest seemed like filler to me. But this was 1996. I hadn't been introduced to like punk rock or any of that stuff. I didn't know anything about metal, and even if you know metal, I'm told that this is like a dark time for heavy metal. Heavy metal was popping in the 80s when it was like thrash and stuff, and in the 90s it got really weird. But anyway, I'm waxing nostalgic more about the thrift store than I am about the games. So that's like the time frame of what was going on when Suikoden dropped. So later on in life, I wanted to revisit this game, Suikoden, because it's a weird thing. This is one of those games where like it came in a 2-disc CD case, but it was only one CD. I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong out there, people who have access to Wikipedia. But that's how I remember it. And the cover was like really weird and Americanized. You know? It didn't have its like anime Japanese style art that you would actually see in the game. It's very, very strange. I guess that's what it almost looked like if it came out on Super Nintendo. That's what the cover would be. You know? But man, what a good game. Well, my buddy had it, and I'm pretty sure he still has his original Suikoden. And he got Suikoden 2, which, according to him, the only way you could get Suikoden 2 was if you pre-ordered it, and then they disappeared from the shelves. I found out later, researching the topic, that like they printed a very few copies of it because the first game didn't sell as well as they had hoped. But both of those games got mega expensive. Like at the time when I was starting my YouTube channel, and I looked up how much these games were. Suikoden 2 was mega expensive because of the limited printing, and then Suikoden 1 sort of became mega expensive by proxy. So there was one point where Suikoden 1 was like $130. Now this was prior to it coming out on PSN. Nowadays you can get the original Suikoden for $6. I believe it's $6. It might be $7. Whatever the PSN charges for a PlayStation game, you can get Suikoden. And I think because of that, it's dropped drastically in the marketplace. It's been a long time since I looked it up. But put it this way, when I was writing for the original Suikoden review, 5, 6, 7 years ago, however long it's been, I had a screenshot of looking it up on eBay, and it was more than $100. I'm inclined to think it isn't that now, but I don't know. You never know. I think disc rot is a thing, right? I think, was it Hemrock who told me disc rot was a thing on the Sega Saturn? Or like this original Sega Saturn games are starting to waste away. I'm wondering how long it's going to be before that happens to PlayStation games. I don't know. So that was my morning. Suikoden is a game I haven't really thought about on this level in years, and it was fun to revisit it. I haven't had the chance to play it again, but just like looking up the information and digging up my my old footage and stuff like that was a lot of fun. I bought it on the PSN to research the video, and I played a bunch on the PSN. So that's how I have it. It's difficult for me to play on the PSN now because the PS3 is in the family room, and when I'm in the family room, I'm usually helping out with the children. But I do have the game, and it's pretty cool. So if you like RPGs and you have access to PSN, or you can get it, or you can manage to get a copy of the disc somehow, hey, Suikoden is a pretty sweet game. Pretty sweet game indeed. How we doing? Wow, I went for 17 minutes on that. I guess it was all the pawn shop stuff. I think I miss the most when I look back on those days, which is weird because it's like I miss the downtown scene the most, more than I think even the games themselves. So my buddy and I would walk to we'd walk into the city, which is like 40 minutes. That's where the mall was, and there was like strip malls and everything too. And that was where the 3 pawn shops were, which I've talked about on the air many times. And then there was a mall there, and then what else was there? There was also a toy store there that closed when I was like 6. And I remember walking to that toy store when I was like 6 years old. That was like an hour away or 40 minutes away with my older brother, so that we could get Rescue the Embassy mission. And we went down there, and he forgot his money, so he sent me an hour back to the house to get the money, and an hour back myself alone at like 6 years old. Good times. The dangers we put ourselves to for Nintendo games, man. Yeah, I miss that quite a bit. Most of those places are gone now. The last pawn shop was there for many years, and even though that pawn shop, the Trade Center it was called, even though they closed their doors and they hadn't been selling like Nintendo games like that for many years, it was still an awesome pawn shop. There was super cool like tapes and stuff like that. They had guitars and stuff. I remember they had a guitar display, but their guitars were always like weirdly overpriced, and I didn't understand that as a kid. Like when I picked up guitar, my mom brought me to Chuck Levin's, like a big music store in town, and we were able to get a guitar off the rack for $150, which was like, it was a brand new like student grade guitar. This was not like a super nice instrument, but it was enough for me to get started, which was what I needed. And then they would have these old scuzzy guitars that were like the same kind of guitar as my student guitar, but they'd be like $350, and they'd be all beat up and stuff. I don't understand it. I didn't get it, man. So hats off to my mom for figuring it out and getting me down to a music store and getting me music lessons. I rag on my mom a lot, but she really came through for me on that one, which to this day shocks me, because I didn't have to ask her twice. I just brought it up once. I was like, hey, Mom, I kind of want to play guitar. She's like, all right, we're doing it. We'll go to the store in a couple days, and we'll find one, and we'll get you lessons, and there you go. So thanks, Mom. I appreciate it. All right. Wow, 21 minutes in. I'm out of here. This is dragging on too long. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you guys back in the studio.
Back again in the studio. Oh my goodness. Feels good, man. Know what I'm talking about? We are 36 minutes in. It's a little bit late, but this is somewhere around the midway point. Usually around 20 minutes if I can swing it. I'd like to just take a minute to thank the sponsors. This is a Patreon-sponsored program. These are the guys who are making sure this happens every single week. Hemrock, Sendu, Tecmo Balls, Darabka, Konstantin Kelman. This is the hall of distinguished gentlemen, boys and girls. And to them, I offer a place here on the air, as well as early access to the show. As soon as it gets done, it goes up for these gentlemen. For everybody else, it goes up Monday morning. And occasionally, when I can swing it, some Patreon exclusive content. Last month, we had the chiptune review, number 3. I'm trying to cook something up for this month. We'll see what we can make happen. I hope you guys are enjoying the party. So with that, let's head over to let's see. Give me a second here. Let's head over to the fail bag. All right. I think this is the first week in a bit that we didn't get one from Hemrock, so this one probably won't. This one will be a little on the short side. We're heading over to YouTube now, and we're gonna see what we got. All right, let's see. All right, so we're heading over to YouTube now. The best way to get in touch with me is the YouTube comments. But of course, if you know me personally, feel free to write me an email. Just let me know what I can and can't read on the air so that there's no problems there. First one I want to read is one we got from Eric Controller, who's new to the channel. And this is probably the nicest comment I've read in a long time. Let's see what he says. He says, new subscriber here. I'm fairly new to the channel. I like the show so far. It's nice to listen to your long episodes while I'm at the gym doing some lifting. Most of my young gaming memories have been post-Windows 95, but I do have fond memories of some DOS games like Reading Rabbit, Wolfenstein, Tetris, and a weird game called Nightmare 3D, among others. All on my first PC ever, an old compact from my dad's office that I got when his office updated their systems. I enjoyed your sharing of memories as it's given me a bit of nostalgia feels too. By the way, kudos on working a job and sustaining content on your channel while being a father. Trust me, I know how much planning and time management it can take to do all that, so I appreciate it. Keep it up. Subscribed. Bell rang. Man, that's so nice. Thank you so much, and welcome to the channel. So let's talk a little bit about this computer that you had, that your old man cleared out of his office. I remember, I don't know if I ever got one from a cleared out office, but my buddy had a compact computer, and then like I got one from a kid at school. Yes, an entire computer system, which I think would have been from similar means. It was like an MS-DOS sort of thing. But you said, you're talking about post, let's see if I can get this together in my fragmented, sleep-deprived mind. You're talking about, you started post-Windows 95. You have Reading Rabbit and Wolfenstein as exceptions, but what's what were we playing post-Windows 95? See, my older brother got a gateway computer around that time. I think it was right around the time Windows 98 was coming out, but we didn't have 98. So that was like what? Unreal was packaged in with our computer. Let's see. Everybody was playing Half-Life. You would get Half-Life in the great big orange box, and then download all the mods one at a time, slowly, off of over a 56K modem. What about Quake? Did you play any Quake? Come on now, Quake. It's right in that era. What I remember the most, I think, about gaming around that time, apart from the mods, was the server browsers for playing anything online. You would browse servers mostly in GameSpy, and you'd see it would look like, yeah, there's 100 different games of whatever game going at any given time. But if you join that server, then you were locked into waiting like an hour or two to download all the resources. Think about it today. Every good server in Counter-Strike or in TF2 has got a little bit of modification, right? Well, that stuff took a lot of time back in the day. That's what I remember the most. But that would have been right around that time, maybe a little bit after. Oh, that's the bell. That's my wife. Let's see what she says. Hang on one second. Okay. Thanks, Eric. It's good to meet you, brother. Hope your life's going good, man. All right, now where the okay, 5 days ago, 4 days ago, 1 week. Yeah, here we go. All right. This is from Mecha Menace. He says, he's talking about the Eurorack thing. That's right. I posted that Eurorack tour setup, and he writes, how did you pick up the hobby? What were you were you listening to chiptunes, and you're just like, how do I do that? Last bit sounds a bit horror-ish. The random tone mixed with the deep thrills gave me the chills. Makes me think of The Shining, the one with Jack. Funny, I know. I just noticed the repeating geometric pattern on your switchboard. Yeah, the switchboard is the little sequencer thing is it's dope. It's dope. The red lights, they blink. And each step, it'll trigger the amount of voltage that step is assigned to. And you can use that to generate a tone. 100% analog signals to generate electronic music. It's pretty sweet. I dig it, man. And thank you for watching that video, because my goodness, if there's one thing I didn't expect people on a video game-related channel to watch, it's my Eurorack setup tour. But I posted it for me as well. It's like one of those things where sometimes I like to go back and watch my own videos from like a year ago or 6 months ago. And if you do that enough, the channel can become kind of a scrapbook. So that's what the Eurorack tour was. I've been quite a bit into the Eurorack and the synthesis and stuff. It's a good clean hobby that I can do with my kids, where I'm still learning and I'm creating, and it's the whole thing feels very healthy. See, I replied to him. I told him more or less the same thing about how I got hooked. I downloaded VCV Rack, and I played with that. And he says, yeah, I figured the analog nature of a board and knobs in front of you, which you can easily grab and tweak with small gestures, is much more appealing than the digital forms that you fiddle with, mouse and keyboard controls. I guess the loss of the space constraints of a physical world. I think it's worth mentioning, Mecha Menace, that I work on a computer all day. And there is a thing to be said about making music where I'm not looking at the computer. So I'd been playing my guitar, which is pretty sweet. But it's also nice to be able to make electronic music, completely looking away from the screen. That's not why I picked it up, I'm going to be honest. I picked it up because I thought it was cool. But that is a perk that I've noticed that I've quite enjoyed. Desm101 writes, 40 minutes and 50 seconds in. I didn't know you wrote game reviews for a website. I'll have to go check them out. I dig your review style since the old days of YouTube. Desm, yeah, man. Give it a little look-see. I don't know. Emerald Ranger is a good site. And I'm kind of, in terms of the games that I'm reviewing, I'm sort of like going all over the place. But yeah, there's just simple little, page or 2-page type articles, but yeah, they do a good site, and I'm glad that Sendu is letting me be a part of the site on a limited basis. It really fits my schedule so that I can write for them, but it doesn't get overwhelming. So yeah, they have a good setup. Good to hear from you, man. Mecha Menace writes, the kobold is much more a terrifying foe in Heroes Quest 1. There's only one. It's tucked away in a cave in the northeast corner of the map, and that little sucker can knock you flat. And then in the comment, we've got a few different time signatures. He has one at 35 minutes in. Are you talking about spending $20 on 10 1.44 megabyte hard disks? I see these things new all the time. I'm pretty sure I can get packs for $1 to $3. I've never asked the thrift store how much they'd sell them to me. I can ask if you want. They have plenty of old unused media, not just regular floppies, but I may have never even heard or seen until I saw them there. For labels, you can look up Brother label printers. Ink and label rolls will cost you, the razor blade model, but maybe these things can be found cheap. I've never looked. Brother label printers are everywhere, so used ones are cheap, especially if you're not looking for the latest model. Okay, I'll have to check that out. I don't really know much about it. I've been focusing, when it comes to the disc project, I've been focusing on coming up with content that would merit acquiring the discs. Because I figured we don't need to have that many. If I bought a pack, even a pack at a premium price, that would be 10. And then Hemrock talked about picking up another pack as well. And that would be like, 20 or so total. We could distribute 20 discs and call it a day. I'd be happy with that number. I'd be willing to go higher if we could find these cheapies that you're talking about. But yeah, it's that, and I'll have my eyes open for label printers, man. I have my little label maker that makes like thin labels that I use to put labels on all of my power bricks, unless it's video game related, because those I know by sight. But on all my music equipment, like the guitar pedals and stuff, they take these the black power bricks, and if I put labels on them so that you can match the brick to the device. Guitar pedals is a bad example because they use a standardized power brick, right? It's just a 9-volt DC adapter with the center pin negative. It's all guitar pedals use the same power brick, and my keyboard, I have a Casio electric keyboard, uses the same power. So those all kind of share the same thing, but like the Ouya and things like that, things that don't always get plugged in very much. I use a little label maker, and coincidentally, when I'm making cassette tapes for like the mixtape exchange, it's the same label maker I use to label my cassettes. All right, back to the comment. He writes, at 1 hour and 8 minutes in, have I played Paperboy in the Abandonware era? I played Paperboy DOS this past summer and enjoyed it. My feelings are mirrored in nostalgia. Mostly likely as it was only a few years ago I played the actual stand-up arcade machine and did not like that version either. What can I say? I have an affinity for that MS-DOS version with PC speaker sound. By the way, did you think it was weird that the kid on the Paperboy box was pushing 85? Why gray and why the troll face? That's really funny. I had to look up what you're talking about, but yeah, that artwork is really... it's a little strange. I gotta say, I'm also very nostalgic for the PC speaker because my dad's machine, growing up, that was a PC speaker machine. IBM 386 with no sound card, baby. We had the PC speaker, and that was it. It was and Space Quest in particular had that PC speaker intro. And it was, at the time, it was the greatest thing I'd ever heard. It captured the imagination. And it's funny because even though it used a PC speaker, I think it left a bigger impact than quite a lot of games, audio that would come through on something much more sophisticated. Let's see if we can get a sample of that here. Let's see if I can bring it up. All right. All right. Oh, yeah, there it is. I know you can hear it because I can see the needles jumping. This is fun. Oh, boy. This is 5-year-old Alex just having a great time. All right, this is making everything mess up. I love it because, oh gosh, it doesn't sound perfect. That's for sure. What you're hearing is the Steam version here. Let's turn that down. That's pretty awful. It's the Steam version, and the Steam version runs on DOSBox. And I don't know. Guess it's just not emulated perfectly. What are you gonna do? But yeah. So we held on to the PC speaker, I think, longer than most people. Because I remember playing Doom with the PC speaker and stuff, But it's good times. All right, let's see. I minimized the comment I was looking at. Hang on a second here. Mecha Menace, man, hope things are going good for you. Oop, it's DOSBox is still playing. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Much better. Much better. All right, how did we do here? 51.5 minutes in, that's not too bad.